Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs postgame show podcast after another devastating loss for the Chicago Cubs as they try to find their way into the postseason. But 6-5, 10 innings against the Braves. Luke Stuckmeyer, Ryan Herrera, Corey Friedman, and once again, Mr. Cody Del Mendo down at the end. He will speak in a moment. If last night was a gut punch, and it was, this was the official kick in the crotch. This was the old kick in the crotch. I mean, to lose these first two games against the Braves that you very easily could have won. You led 6-1 in the sixth inning of game one. We all know how that turned out. Tonight, 3-1 in the sixth inning. But that wasn't it. You led three different times in this game and couldn't find a way to win it. I don't know how they bounce back from this.
Thinking of, like, comparing the two games, that, like, Tuesday felt just like a heartbreaker. Yeah. Like, just the way that ended. But then, like, today feels just, like, way more disappointing because of the opportunities. And, you know, as soon as Nico made that error, it felt like you could sense it coming, right? As soon as that error was made. And, you know, fortunately they got out of that inning. And we'll talk about that. But, like, I don't know. It just felt like after that you could sense it coming, and it obviously happened. And that's like a way more just like disappointing ending than like heartbreaking, because it's like I don't know. I think I kind of prepared myself for that to happen just after that, because it's like
because it was so crazy
when you're making those mistakes, when you're not cashing in on all your opportunities against a team as good as Atlanta, who we've seen just a relentless offense. Like, you honestly have to be as close to perfect as you can. Cubs weren't today, and yeah, came back to bite them.
I think the most disappointing part, at least to start of this, I mean, obviously, as you said, Luke, like, these are just brutal losses. But what jumps out is, like, you know, everybody was scared about this series. The Braves are terrifying, even though you weren't getting their best pitchers, and like, the Cubs had every opportunity to win both of these games. I mean, so easily we're looking at the Cubs showing up in Atlanta and winning these games, and you're finding ways to lose. You feel like the team is pressing. You're making defensive mistakes all over the place from all sorts of different, veterans, rookies. Everybody's just making mistakes. You're leaving guys on third base again late in the game with one out. The bullpen is what it is, and it's just disappointing because, like, to your point, like, yesterday feels like one of the worst losses in a long time. And at least to start this game, they did respond. They did get up for it. They jumped on the pitcher early. Taillon was really good. Credit to him. And, like, part of the problem, I think, especially against this Braves team, is, like, you just sort of feel like unless they're up 15-0, you're just running the clock out, right? Like, on when the Braves are going to come back or which portion of this Cubs team is not going to come through, right? Are they going to fail on offense? Are they going to fail on defense? Is the bullpen not going to be able to hold a tight lead? Like, you just sort of, in both of these games, at least I've had the feeling of, like, I can see the other shoe, and I'm just waiting for it to drop because it just didn't feel like they were going to be able to hold it out. So, these games, especially at this point in the year and the race that they're in, are easier, I think, in a way, if it had gone that way. If the Braves just come out, they stomp all over you, they put up 10 runs, and it's just like, okay, you throw your hands up, you're getting killed by the best team in baseball. They had every opportunity to win this game and last night. And the Braves are very good, but this team is just out of gas in a lot of ways, and I'm sure people don't want to hear that, but that's how I felt, at least. Just kind of, not that I'm not confident in them or whatever, but you just had the feeling in these games where it was just like, I am waiting for this to. These games are too close. They're not putting enough distance. Something bad's going to happen.
Yeah.
There it is.
I don't know, man. I'll put on a brave face tomorrow. That's where I'm at. Like, all we can do is sit here and watch. Like, listen, these motherfuckers had such a terrible May. They blew so many dumb games
that it shouldn't be this. And at that time in May, no one thought this team would be playing games that mattered in September anyway. They lose 2 or 3 in Colorado in September. They get swept by Arizona in September. You lose 2 or 3 to the Pirates in September.
Yep.
You're 11-13 in September.
You lose 3 or 4 of the Nationals at the beginning of May. You don't own the tiebreaker between the Marlins or the Reds or the Diamondbacks. Not that that matters anymore. But it's just like, that's where it just keeps bringing me back. Like, even when we didn't think this team was going to be playing games that mattered in September, they lost games early in the year that they shouldn't have lost. And I think we all can confidently sit here and agree with that. And some of those decisions are on David Ross and the front office. I've said it all year. I don't think the organization has been aggressive enough with some of their young guys. And the only reason that I point at that is that they could have given some of these young guys an opportunity to maybe earn some trust to get an opportunity. Because, yeah, we're sitting on the couch and we're like, I'm going to yell at the chat, or I'm going to scream if someone in the chat says something about putting Luke Little in the game. Well, you know what? Why not call up Luke Little earlier in the season? I'm not saying May or June, and I don't even know if he would have been ready. But this is what I'm saying about other guys. What about Jordan Wicks? He gets called up when it's a literal emergency, and he's pitched like he should have been here in June.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Drew Smiley, all those bad starts that led to losses. You could have put Jordan Wicks in earlier and maybe salvaged some of those losses. Again, this is in hindsight, so it means nothing. But all I'm saying is, to me, that is the biggest thing that has annoyed me all season with this team, is that they just haven't been aggressive with some of their young guys. And that's what I thought this year was all about to begin with. You know what I mean? Like, that's the biggest frustration to me, is that they just weren't aggressive enough with some of these young guys to perhaps put them in a position to earn some trust with David Ross. And when I say that, earn trust, I'm talking about pitchers mainly. Like, I'm fine with how they've used PCA for the most part. I'm fine with the way that they've used Canario, even though I do think he deserves more pitch hitting appearances at least, but whatever. I don't think them not playing Canario has led to more or less losses. I think it's about the same. I don't think anything would be much different if they were playing Canario every fucking day. All right? This is just where I'm at. And if they miss the playoffs now, like, yeah, it's going to suck in the moment because they reeled me in, and in a season that we were playing with house money, and it's just going to feel like a real just kick in the nuts. And it shouldn't have been, because the season was all about building for next year, essentially, but hopefully get better baseball, in which we have. And in 3-4 weeks after the season, I'll be able to finally look back and say, you know, at least there's hope for the future. At least we're not the team that's on the verge of losing 100 games on the other side of town that had a win-loss total in Vegas for 84.5 and putting up almost 100 losses. Like, at least there's some hope over here, right? But, like, yeah, I'm going to sit here and I'm pissed off about the fact that they reeled me all the way in like this with how they played in most of July and August. And just kind of, like, let's be real, they've kind of just fallen apart. And I'm not saying that they've fallen apart because the pressure. I think injuries have played a major factor in it, especially with the bullpen. With ALLCITY being out and Fulmer being out, those are huge. Those are big arms that they're missing right now.
No doubt.
And then the one thing that we've talked about all season that this team has missed, that one other big bat. And Candelario has been fine with the Cubs, and he was a fine trade deadline pickup for where this team was at. There was no reason for this team to go all in at the end of July going into August. There was no reason. So to pick up Candelario was a fine move. But I still think that they should have picked up another bullpen arm outside of Quas.
Yeah.
And I still think that
and
maybe
a lot of people felt that at the time.
And I still think they should have perhaps picked up a starter just in case too. And I mean, that was only because I just didn't know when they were ever going to call up Jordan Wicks.
Yeah.
Again, I'm yelling about a lot of crap in hindsight, and maybe it's not like
a lot of that is in hindsight.
No, the first half of the season stuff's not hindsight. That's what we spent the whole first half of the season talking about.
What I'm getting at though is that
keep cooking.
Even though a lot of what I'm saying is in hindsight, like I just wish that we could see some of these guys that we've talked about in the offseason or whatever. I wish we could have got that chance to see if they could have helped this team in games that really mattered. And that's what brings me back, again, to the lack of aggressiveness on some of these young dudes. And, again, I don't know if some of those guys are ready or not. And, Jared Banner and the front office, whatever, they say whatever they want. They're going to say whatever that they think is justifiable. And all I can do is sit in here and be like, okay, I'm still going to think what I want to think. All right, and people in the chat are still going to think what they want to think. But to me, I just feel like that's a big thing, especially in a game like tonight, because it's like, okay, you use Merriweather, you use Leiter, and I know Palencia is one of those young guys, and he's had a roller coaster year, and he's a rookie, and I didn't know what to expect from him. And I think all of us were okay with the fact that they went with him in that given situation. But, like, yeah. I just wish that there would have been more. I wish there would have been more trust in some of these guys, and if they would have been given those opportunities, maybe things could have gone differently. I'm not saying they would have. I don't know, but that's where I'm at because there's so many dudes that are in that bullpen that David Ross has no trust in. But like Luke Little has the shit, but he ain't getting the opportunity, and I don't want him to have the opportunity in those high leverage situations. I agree with that. I don't think he should, but all I'm saying is the fact that he didn't get any of those opportunities. Whether I know he was a September call-up, so maybe he's a bad example, but other dudes though, I still think Jordan Wicks is a prime example of what I'm talking about.
But there's guys that have, like you mentioned, Palencia. He was in a high leverage situation is a first time in the big leagues, first time pitching in the big leagues. He's had plenty of those opportunities in the last 2 months, 3 months, or whatever it's almost been, and he's been up and down. Like Hayden Wesneski's still getting a lot of opportunities. He's a young guy that you can't necessarily trust. I mean, like, I think you wish that Ben Brown was up at some point this year, but he obviously got injured. Jeremiah Estrada had gotten a lot of high leverage opportunities. He didn't take the reins of that. Like, I'm not completely disagreeing with you, because, I don't know exactly where Luke Little was, because I think he got called up September 6th. I don't know exactly. Would he have been ready in, like, early August? I don't know. But I'm pushing back a little bit, because there have been those guys that have gotten the opportunities. And, I mean, even Palencia's maybe been the best of them, but he's not completely trusted in that back end and high leverage opportunities. So I'm like, it is tough to, when that keeps happening, when you keep having the young guys getting the opportunities, not taking advantage of them all the time. They do sometimes, they don't all the time. I think that's when you get to the point where you're leaning on the guys that are taking advantage, the couple veteran guys or the guys that are doing really well, and you start to lean on them because you don't know what you're getting with some of those young guys that haven't been successful in those opportunities. And then that's obviously how you get to a point where a lot of those back-end guys you trusted all season are either hurt or running out of gas or just starting to be ineffective. Like, it all plays together, I think. But
if I can add on,
I'm not even trying to say that.
By the way, the Marlins did win the second game.
They did.
Either way, and I didn't mean to try.
No, go for it.
I just wanted to just end my 2 cents of saying that I know that I'm not even fully right about what I'm saying, and there are so many other aspects to like this entire to how things have played out. But that's probably been my biggest gripe with this organization all season. And whatever. Tomorrow I'm going to put on a brave face and watch this team. There was at one point this season where I was out. Like I was like, they're going to sell deadline, they're out. And what they do, they got on this hot stretch and somehow got into the playoff race. And here we are playing games that matter in September. Like, I have no other choice than to just watch it all play out. But I think what really hurts the most is just the fact that losing the series in Colorado, not being able to win more than one game against Arizona, losing 2 or 3 of the Pirates when you've dominated them all season. You know what I mean? And
11-13 in September doesn't get it done when you have a team that's on the fringe of the postseason.
Not sweeping some
not
of those,
going to get it done.
Not sweeping some of those teams in what was it, in mid-August?
Yes.
Like when they had that
the
stretch where
soft
they
schedule.
played, when they
Win
played the
2
White
against
Sox,
the White
Tigers,
Sox.
the Royals. Like they won all those series, but they didn't.
They didn't
sweep any of them. And they could have used the sweep or two in that stretch, and they just didn't get it done. And it's just
I just want to add, I do agree with Cody. I mean, I think, look, like ultimately using some of the, like I joked with you guys before we got on, like I could go on a 45-minute rant about how much time they wasted with Eric Hosmer and Trey Mancini and guys like Tucker Barnhart, and it pays off, right? Like a lot of people were complaining about that for a reason, right? It was a waste of time. But I think in addition to not working on some of the younger guys, like you're also just seeing the dividends of some of the decisions from the front office, right? Yeah. And I know that they went into this season maybe with modest expectations, and I think right now, I think they're really hitting them on basically everything that they wanted to do in this season. They're competitive. They're right now by the tiebreaker, not a playoff team, but, there's still, 4 games left. Like, it's still very easy to get there. And they'd be checking off those boxes. But the problem is when you get into a race like this, when you're trying to hold off multiple teams, you're in a 5-team race for the wild card in the last week of the season, this stuff matters. Right? Mm-hmm. Not building a bullpen that could survive a couple of guys getting injured. Guys get hurt. You can't predict it, but you had no ability to survive that, right? Because you came into the season with an unreliable bullpen. They didn't even know ALLCITY would be that good as a closer. They didn't know,
a closer, right? Like at the beginning.
Right. They didn't know Leiter Jr. would be able to do high leverage, and you didn't have a lot of options. So when those guys get hurt, or David Ross runs those guys into the ground, because for a while, ALLCITY, Leiter Jr., and Julian Merriweather were the only people that he could rely on in that bullpen. Mm-hmm. Now they're toast. And so the decision to not get more bullpen help at the deadline looms large, right? And so what I'm saying is that it was fine to have those expectations to start the season and be happy in the big picture of the development you've made and the progress you've made and that you're in this race. But once you're in it, right, like those decisions still matter. Mm-hmm. And it's easy to go back to and be like, oh, were they weren't supposed to win? They're ahead of schedule. They set us up for the future. Sure. But like this team is and was very capable of getting into the playoffs and screwing around, right? Anybody can screw around in the playoffs. And you didn't supplement the team enough to do that, and you're seeing that play out on a night-to-night basis. Like, this bullpen is an absolute, like, utter mess right now. And you can get into the decisions. I said to the guys as it was happening that I thought bringing in Mark Leiter Jr. in the 9th inning against the Atlanta Braves for the first time in a week when he hasn't been effective in a month was a crazy decision. I didn't say that after that. I said it the second he came in the game. The other options aren't good. Could Julian Merriweather have gone a second inning? Maybe. Maybe he blows it too, right? Could Luke Little have come in? I don't know, right? Maybe you would have been better off trying something else. But no, I don't think that was a good decision. But you're paying you're paying for not giving this team more to win with. Mm-hmm. They were always going to be a team that had to be perfect on those little margins. And of course, they're not doing that either, right? You have Nico botching a double play. It didn't end up costing them. They got out of it, but it changed the pitching trajectory, right? You needed guys to throw more pitches. You needed to change stuff.
PCA diving in center.
PCA diving in center on a ball.
Ultimately cost them. But
no, absolutely. Mastroboni striking out with the runner on third after the Yan Gomes go-ahead hit for that extra run that obviously would have been important. There is a lot of blame to go around. You, like in the chat, or if you're watching or listening, you can put it wherever you want, right? Like I really don't think there is one answer to what is happening here, other than like they're doing the best they can. They're just not. They're out of gas. They're like the wheels are off, right?
Yeah.
They are trying to get to the finish line in a NASCAR race on the.
They're on their hands and knees.
There's no
crawling
tires,
to the
right?
finish
It's just
line.
like yeah. So it is what it is.
I want to say this. We've had some comparisons once we realized that they were going to buy instead of sell at the trade deadline. We said, wait a minute, this team's making a run. This is starting to feel like 2015. And we've heard the championship team in 2016 now look back at that and say, 2015 turned out to be such a building block. Like once they did that in 2015 in the postseason, they went into 2016 saying, wait a minute, we are for real. We can do this. We are young, but we can do this. We wanted to make that comparison because there were some parallels between the two. Hey, it's a rebuild. It's early in the rebuild. They've got some of the young guys coming up. There are some veteran guys, and they look like they could screw around in the playoffs. We are maybe now starting to see tonight and last night and the month of September, they aren't 2015. This teardown was, we're still a phase behind. This roster was garbage coming into this season. They spent a ton of money just to try and get it to this point. So I don't disagree with could have added at the deadline, could have added another pitcher, should have added another bullpen arm, could have added another bat, like all of those. They could have done a lot of things. But that's probably because they've already done so much to try and fill the hole. This team was not ready. And now that they're here, though, we don't want to hear those excuses, right?
Right. Yep.
We're here, and it's like, okay, take advantage of it.
Well,
and just play clean baseball.
But
I used to watch baseball with my mom on WGN. I'd come home from school, mom would be home, and we'd have the end of the Cubs game. I'd see the last 3 innings. And you know how she described last night? How she described my entire childhood of baseball. That was pitiful last night. And tonight was pitiful again. It's an old term, right? It's an old person's term to say that game was pitiful. There's no better way to describe it. It was pitiful. And so was tonight. And the way they're finishing in September is not giving you the same feel that 2015 gave you going into 2016.
No.
Now it's giving you, this is still a rebuild, and we remember it now.
Well, and I think just to finish on that point, like the thing with, when you make the decision to buy at the deadline, you're making the decision to buy at the deadline. You're not selling your tradable assets. You're not getting anything for the guys that may be leaving, whether that's Bellinger, even though the report is Stroman might stay, right? Like, we didn't know that at the time. You don't have to go all in, right? But what we're seeing right now is a pretty predictable outcome, I guess, is what my main point is, right? All teams deal with this. We're watching a Braves team. We are not facing Max Fried or Spencer Strider or Charlie Morton because they're dealing with stuff, right?
Yeah.
The Dodgers are going to start whoever shows up in the dugout because they've had so many injuries to that rotation and that pitching staff. You have to be prepared for it. This is not some like crazy outcome like, oh, the bullpen is gassed, right? Like, yeah, Mark Leiter Jr. was never supposed to be a high leverage reliever. The fact that you got so many
and everyone hated him.
8th innings out of him and all those holds and all those like close 1-run games. You go back to that Brewers series at Wrigley Field, right, where they won all those close games. This is not an unpredictable outcome, which I think is where my frustration is. You didn't need to go and get the top bullpen guys in the world, but you needed to be prepared for the fact that ALLCITY has never done this at this level with this many innings in that much high leverage ever in his life. Neither has Mark Leiter Jr., and it took them a little while to get Julian Merriweather even to the point that they're going. So the fact that you didn't work with those young guys to get them to the point where you're comfortable with them in those spots, or add more depth so that you can call more guys up or whatever. Like, and even where would they be right now if Drew Smyly wasn't one of their best relievers? I think he's been their best reliever in September or in the second half of guys that have a certain number of innings. Right.
But that's what I'm saying. So these are winnable games. So Taillon gave it to you tonight.
My thing is, like, yes, like, you came into the year with a lot of junk on the roster. You tried to move on from last year and, like, bridge that gap. but you got there. You made the decision to buy. You were in the race, and you're paying. You don't have to go all in. But to endure a 162-game schedule, to get into the playoffs, and to succeed in the playoffs, even if you don't have true World Series ambitions, it takes a certain level of depth and, platoon guys and reinforcements, and I just don't think they did enough to do that. And I saw Brendan in our chat saying the front office knows that. Like, the fact that, you're looking at Daniel Palencia having to try to come in that spot. Okay. Or Leiter coming in off a week. Like, it's a horrible situation, right? And all I'm saying is, like, you don't have to go all in, but you're paying for right now, not forecasting forward I think some pretty obvious stuff. The defense stuff that's happening, some of the offense stuff, that's going to happen.
They're not playing to their potential.
We knew that this offense wasn't going to blow guys out. The defense has been very good in large part. You have probably 2 Gold Glove winners up the middle in Dansby and Nico, and they'll deserve those awards. They've been unbelievable. So that stuff happens, right? The Seiya thing, these things happen. Like, they're little mistakes, errors happen, horrible moments at times, but they happen, right? The bullpen wearing down, the starters wearing down, all this stuff, it's fairly predictable, and they weren't prepared for it. And it might cost them with 5 games to go.
Yeah, and like, we had that conversation in our Slack channel last week, maybe the week before, something like that, about the trade deadline. And like Brennan rightly pointed out that like the bullpen stuff, like that all goes back months to the winter. By would you have like 12 million or 11 million in money for Mancini and Barnhart, which like the Mancini one, I remember a lot of people wanted that signing done at the time. So like that's like to hindsight to say they shouldn't have signed him, whatever. But with the signings you made, you didn't, or you constructed a patchwork bullpen again, which has worked out for them in the past.
It has risks.
It does not always work out. And so you go into the season, obviously now you're carrying dead weight in the different contracts that guys you've DFA'd, and you get to the trade deadline and you are running up against the luxury tax threshold. And so it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation for the front office, I think, because you either make more additions, which I'm not even they probably should have. They definitely should have. But you make more additions, run the risk of like bonuses hitting or whatever, and you go over that luxury tax threshold. Then you've set yourself. You've already got a year in that luxury tax, which this doesn't necessarily feel like the year they should have done that. However, I will say that they probably should have got another arm at the deadline, which they didn't, and that goes from the damned if they don't part, right? They don't do that. They stay under the luxury tax threshold, but you run the risk of this is what happens with your bullpen, right? What we're seeing now, guys getting hurt, guys wearing out, guys becoming ineffective in roles that they haven't been in the whole season. That's the risk you run when you make that decision. They made the decision, and now you're seeing it. So, yeah, but like I said, like that, I think the whole part of that goes back to what they did over the winter and deciding not to address the bullpen more going into the season. And I'm not an advocate for throwing a bunch of money at your bullpen. I don't think that's always the smartest idea either.
Sure.
But every time you bring in Michael Fulmer and Brad Boxberger as your veteran guys who guys that have been solid in their out of the bullpen in their careers, but never like high end relievers, right? You bring those 2 guys in, and then the rest of your bullpen is just kind of made up of your own guys, which, if you trust the pitching infrastructure, like you obviously hoping that works out. But again, that's just the risk you run when you're going into the season. You're going into 162 without constructing the bullpen and just constructing the roster overall to better withstand, as you said, injuries or ineffectiveness or early season when the roles are just guys that are not fitting into their roles, right? Like I think that it all
and
plays
somebody in the chat
then.
said, you're looking at there's several guys that they were hoping to be contributors. Keegan Thompson, Boxberger was out for a bit, Brandon Hughes. Again, sometimes this stuff just happens. But look, they're in the situation and they're not prepared to deal with it. You can have whatever feeling you want, right? Like, I think a lot of people are going to be of the mind, like, I'm glad they didn't trade more at the deadline. I'm glad they didn't give up more because even with the help, I don't think this team was worth it. Some people are going to say, every opportunity to win is precious. But in the moment, right, I'm just trying to, from my perspective, explain how we got here, right? Because I think a lot of people are going to freak out about some of the decisions that Ross makes or things like that, or the way some of these relievers perform. And again, I'm not a Ross defender. I complain about him plenty, right? But some of this is on the roster construction, whether you agree they should have spent more to do it or not. Like, I'm just trying to look at, how do we get here tonight? How are we in a situation where, like, their best option is off of 7 days rest because his splitter isn't effective anymore, Mark Leiter Jr. trying to close this game and failing?
Yeah.
Whether you agree they should have gone one direction or the other is up to you, but they have a chance to win and make the playoffs, and this is the stuff that's going to cost them, whether you agree or not.
I want to get to some of the super chats, though, because we have a great chat going. We've got like 500 people been watching since the very beginning of the show. Thanks to everybody that has joined the live chat. Make sure you subscribe to the CHGO Sports YouTube page. We're here after every game. We want to make sure you're not missing any shows. This is the most fun, is when you join in. Usually by now we'd be peppering you with a bunch of chats and comments, but there's so much to talk about. So I do want to get to some of the super chats. Braggs, if you can pull those up whenever you get a chance. I saw somebody, by the way, still saying, by the way, Harris made the catch, that PCA would have made the catch. I don't want to hear it anymore.
So stupid.
It is not right. Okay, first of all, Seiya was standing underneath the baseball. Yeah. Tonight's play was two guys running full speed going the same direction.
That ball was hit.
Cody Bellinger would have caught the ball last night. Any center fielder would have caught the ball last night had it not been directly to the right fielder who was standing underneath it, who called him off. Well, yes. Cody, if I had to pick a person to play center field for one game tonight and have to have every catch made, Cody Bellinger would be my center fielder, not PCA. Frankly, I'm losing a little confidence in PCA playing in these last 4 games, not because I don't think he's going to be a great player. I just think he's a little overwhelmed at the moment.
Well, or
he's
overzealous.
He's overzealous. He's too amped up. He's not ready to make an impact in these 4 games, period. He has not been great. That doesn't mean I don't think he's the Cubs' top prospect. It doesn't mean I don't think he should have been called up. I'm just saying these last 4 games, relying on PCA wouldn't be my go-to move if I'm David Ross. Yeah, Do you have those super chats?
The play tonight in center, right, is a good example. Like, he's in there to be a defensive replacement. He's in there to use those skills. He's trying to make a play. I don't necessarily blame him for that, but that's a ball he wasn't close to catching that.
Tonight,
you have
Bellinger's
to keep it in front of you.
You can't get past
right now. Tonight, Cody Bellinger's better center fielder.
Yeah, I mean, a little overzealous, and again, like, he's very young. He's going to be a star in this league. I genuinely believe
hope
that.
So too, yeah.
But this is a tough spot, and right now it's tough to make the counter argument that he's not looking a little overzealous and just like not clean enough for what they need him to be doing.
All right, Max with a $2 super chat. You guys are the best. Win or lose, we have CHGO. Thank you very much. $5 from Always Stay Up. We can't trust our bullpen. Don't pitch any of them. Put a starter in these, our must-win games. The extra runner, stupidest rule. It's pathetic. By the way, let's talk about that in the second segment, whether or not starters should be starting using relief. Should they be treating this as like a playoff game, a postseason game?
I did say, should they just put in Stroman? I did say that.
Yeah, no, we talked about it during the game. Sean Caselli, $5, says, next time Ryan talks with Ross, ask him if he pays more attention to who's at the plate and extras or the flavor of seed he's going to chew next. Okay.
Are we going to go back to that? Like, I have a comment.
All of them?
Just related to his comment.
Sure.
I mean, we haven't talked about, I don't know about y'all, but I kind of brought it up over there. Like, do you walk Acuna to have the double play set up? And what the thing is when Acuna hit that ball, if the defense is playing back, I think Nico has a better play at that ball.
If I'm going to be honest, he's stealing second.
Yeah, I just don't think it matters. If you walk him, he's stealing.
It's not a double play opportunity. He's stealing second, like pretty quickly. And maybe you throw him out. We saw Young Gomes try to do that.
You're just giving him second, though.
He's stealing second. They're holding up the base, and I want to get to that in the second segment, too, because that was total BS.
In extra innings, that was the only thing that I thought was, quote-unquote questionable. I mean, they were with where the bullpen was at, like, who else were you going to go with Palencia is the only one who throws high heat and can get swing and miss. That was left in the bullpen.
Yeah, I didn't hate
that Ross had any
yeah.
sort of trust in at all.
I didn't hate that. Like I think that's the whether to walk or not Acuna is like maybe you can debate it, and now I can listen to an argument. I don't think it would have. I don't think it would have worked out regardless.
For sure. Perhaps he does. But.
I mean, he wanted. You saw him. He wanted that 70th stolen base. He wanted to pull that base out of the ground.
So dumb that they did that.
I want to get to
that. He was going to take that base regardless.
We'll get to it in a second, and more super chats in a second. First, I want to know if you're in the market for a new or used vehicle. Let me tell you, you are in luck. We've got great news for you because Ray Chevy in Fox Lake has just joined the CHGO team. We're talking to the team at Ray, and they have this pledge called the Ray Price Promise. It's a guarantee that the price you see online is the price you pay when you go into the dealership. We found that in many cases, other dealers will raise the price on you when you come into the dealership, saying things like, hey, man, are you a recent college grad? Or are you active in the military or a farmer? In most cases, the answer is no, and that's when the other dealers try to raise the price on you, saying the price online included limited rebates that you don't qualify for. Well, at Ray, that's not the case. The price you see online is the price you pay, no add-ons to the price ever. In fact, Ray will do everything possible to find additional savings for you, which may make the price lower than what you actually see online. As one of the top-selling dealers in the Midwest, you're always able to shop one of Chicagoland's largest inventories. And save big at Ray Chevy because they now have over 100 Chevy Trax models available starting at $21,495. That's $21,495. And now through September 30th, that's this Saturday, all buyers can qualify for 0% financing. Make 0 payments until 2024, plus no money down, and best of all, pay 0 hidden fees with a Ray Price Promise. Visit Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or raychevrolet.com, serving the community since 1963. Find new roads.
Well, if you're like me and you want to put on a brave face and go to Wrigley North and watch this godforsaken baseball team, go to Game Time. You shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event, guys. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets to all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. When I was in Colorado, when I was in Arizona, use Game Time to go to those games. Super easy, super fast. The only thing that sucked about going to those games was the actual games. But Game Time was the best part. That was my favorite part of those games. I got them through Game Time. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you the complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices. Show your total up front so you know you're getting a great deal without hidden fees. Buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps. They're obsessed with finding ways to help you save money on tickets. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, and even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find last-minute seats, find exclusive flash deals and sponsored deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. With zone deals, you pick the section, and Game Time picks the seats for an average of 18% savings, and the Game Time guarantee means you always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Guaranteed.
Good luck with those brave faces when we go to Wrigley North.
Scotty, $4.99 at Super Chat. This month of September has been so brutal. Feels like the Cubs are really just not good enough to get into the playoffs. It does feel like that. Bugs Bunny, 841 for $4.99. Bullpen bailed out by Seiya error last night. 0% chance the clown show of a bullpen gets through the 9th inning last night. These two are on them. That's a fair argument.
Brags.
I'd rather blame them.
Fernando says, I'm here to see Cody cook. I'm still with you. And then another $2 super chat. Umpires almost had a great win tonight.
I kind of forgot about that. I kind of forgot about that game.
That was a heads-up base running by Bellinger.
Yep.
It was, but that was a gift.
It was a gift.
So that's, that's why I get disappointed. Like, I know what everybody's saying, and I agree with it too. Like, there are flaws to the roster. They had opportunities to fix some of those flaws, or at least try to fix some of those flaws. They're still right here, and they still have a chance. And the other teams seem to be giving them chance after chance to do it, whether it's who they're playing or the teams that are chasing them. And it's like, man, look what Taillon has done. Like, we've complained about Taillon and the contract and what he's done this season, and it's been disappointing. But the month of September, the guy's been pretty good.
Yeah.
If you take out the game at Colorado, which wasn't horrible, 5 innings, 3 runs at Colorado, he's given up 2 runs in his last 18 innings. What more could you ask out of Taillon tonight?
Yeah.
Not too much. He was pretty damn good. And you're getting
September in general.
Drew Smyly, since he's gone to the bullpen, should have made that move probably 2 weeks earlier. Because he's been really, they're desperate to find, they're going to need Smyly. If somehow they can flip the switch and win 4 games and find their way into the playoffs, Drew Smyly will be critical in the postseason.
Yeah.
Because you can see Leiter is spent.
Yeah. And that's when you talk about having to be almost perfect on this team, and I mentioned it earlier with the Nico error that didn't end up costing the Cubs a run in that inning, if I'm not mistaken. Like, that run would have scored anyway if they converted the double play.
So, yeah.
What it did cost you was the ability to have Drew Smyly available, whether that was the 8th inning or the 9th inning. Like, I believe, I think he was already warming up, but I believe if Taillon gets that double play, run scored, that's 3-2 if I'm not mistaken, they probably let him go out there and try to get that last out. And if he succeeds, obviously that's great. But then you needed, when it didn't happen, they had to bring in Smyly, and Smyly had to get 3 outs, I believe. So you've used your inning with him at that point, because he did pitch yesterday too. So instead of having potentially Smyly 8th, Merriweather 9th, then you got, or Merriweather 8th, Smyly 9th, based on how the matchups went. You had to use Smyly in that inning. You had to use Merriweather, and then it gets down to the Mark Leiter Jr. going in the 9th, which I'm not even disagreeing with you, Corey, that like that's a tough position to put a guy in who wasn't effective prior to not pitching for a week and then hasn't pitched in a week. But that's like when you're not playing clean, perfect baseball, which again, it's easy for us to say, but like against a team like the Braves who are just going to keep coming at you all game, like you kind of have to. And when that doesn't happen and you end up having to use Smyly earlier in the game than I'm sure they wanted to, that then the other ends of your bullpen and the later innings, then that's where stuff like that becomes a problem. Even if it doesn't affect you or hurt you specifically in that inning on the scoreboard, that's when that can come back to bite you later on.
There's a domino effect to all of this, right? Each starter that doesn't go deep in the game, every time you need to bring in a reliever for more than an inning, you have to use guys on back-to-back nights. Even those games where you have a big lead and they shrink the lead late, so then ALLCITY has to come in and save the game when it seemed like it might have been an easy win. All those things, they have a domino effect, and you pay for it, right? So tonight it's a shame. I did see some folks in the chat talking about it. Like, for as up and down of a season as he has had, Jameson Taillon stepped up against the best offense we've seen in decades, right? Yeah. And you couldn't make that count. That is a bummer. Just an absolute bummer. He stepped up big time when, I'll admit, I didn't wake up today looking forward to his start against the Atlanta Braves, right? Did all of you? And he stepped up big time. He was excellent tonight. I think somebody said in the chat, too, he almost didn't give up anything, right? He got that one hit that because they were shifted over, Dansby was playing closer to the second base bag, so the ball went through the shortstop hole, which might have been a double play if they're lined up differently.
Sure.
He stepped up huge, and you couldn't make it pay off. And that's why I talk about the domino effect, where it's like, he gave you all he could, right? And then you have to turn it over to the bullpen, which, good luck with that, right? So just a bummer. Then Yan Gomes with another huge hit comes up again in a clutch situation, even though it's a little duck snort into short right field. Doesn't matter. Guy puts the bat on the ball. He comes through in those situations. and you couldn't pay it off. We get down to the same thing again, where it's like, how are they protecting this 1-run lead? Did they get enough extra runs? Did they get that insurance run? And they couldn't. So it's just unfortunate. Like I said, like there's something that's almost easier if a team like the Braves just knocks you out, right? They're prime Mike Tyson, and they just knock you out in the first round. You go, oh, okay, like we ran into a buzzsaw. But you were in both these games. You had an opportunity to win both these games, and I think that's why so many people are looking at the manager, right? Mm-hmm. Because it comes down to you're putting every single decision under a magnifying glass, and
did the same thing with Joe Madden.
There's plenty, yeah. I mean, when teams play close games, that's where you're going to look, right? And ultimately, the players have to perform, but everyone's going to look at the manager. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. Again, I didn't like the Leiter Jr. decision tonight. Other than that, I didn't really have too much of a problem with anything David Ross did tonight.
The lineup was fine.
The lineup was good. I thought PCA
thought
was
it was
put
fine.
in exactly when he should have been.
He,
first thing I see in the chat, Ross trash.
Yeah, I mean, some people asking, Mastroboni bunted last night. Why didn't he do like a squeeze play tonight or something like that? First of all, a few of the bunts that Mastroboni's put down don't look very good. Yeah. I don't know if that's his best skill.
The one yesterday was right back at the pitcher.
Right. And tonight you would have loved that other run, and he can't strike out there. He's got to get that run in. He knows that. But I think it's the same issue as last night. Like, I'm not playing for single runs against the Braves. When you have a bullpen that is this messed up, I'm not playing for single runs. You need to get that run in and keep trying to add more. I'm not happy at 4-3 or 5-3, right? And you see why, because this Braves team is insane. And you're throwing, you might end up in the bullpen at one of these games. So you got to keep scoring runs. So I don't necessarily take much issue with that. If I'm going to look at Ross tonight, I didn't like yesterday at all, but we're not doing that post game again. Like tonight, I think, again, the options are imperfect. Is Julian Merriweather, who has not looked his best right recently as well, because he's been driven into the ground, of course. Is he going out for a second inning your best choice? Does that work? Does Palencia earlier work? Does Luke Little work? Should they have had Kyle Hendricks come in from the bullpen, right, like John Lester in Game 7 of the World Series? I don't know. I wouldn't have set it up
tonight to make sure you get the win.
Sure, I don't know. I wouldn't have set it up so that Mark Leiter Jr., who hadn't pitched since September 20th and wasn't pitching because his effectiveness was toast, right? I wouldn't have set it up so that he comes into the ninth inning protecting a one-run game. That was not my favorite decision, but it's also one of those decisions where you have to look like those decisions aren't just on Ross. It's also on Jed Hoyer. Right? Mm-hmm. Ross doesn't put the bullpen together. Ross doesn't decide the options. Can he make better decisions? I think so. But it's an imperfect situation, almost by definition. Everybody's going to end up with some of the blame in this type of stuff.
I know that the players are out there. They're the ones out there, and they're the ones who have to make the plays and all this and that. But, a few weeks ago, after maybe it was a week ago. I don't know, because I've just lost all track of days because of all this stretch has just put me – I might as well just be 6 feet under right now. I tweeted something along the lines of, if they miss the playoffs, I personally think that he deserves to be fired. And I've been a Ross – I wouldn't say a defender, but I've been an acceptor. I've been someone who's been willing to – criticize when it's needed. I'm not in here crying about him every single night after every loss that the Cubs have had. But to me, it's just if they do not get in the playoffs, someone has to be blamed. They had a 4-game lead in the second wild card spot, man. A 4-game lead in the second wild card spot in September. And sure, you on the flip side of it, it's he took a team that didn't have expectations to do this. But again, I would want some accountability, and that's where I would go, because
ultimately that's how these things go, right?
Yeah.
And also somebody might pay. I don't think they'll look at that, if I'm being honest with you. But this is how these things go, right? Tom's going to give Jed leash to see through his vision. He's built a very nice farm system. They're on the rise, right? They had the ballpark full in September, so Tom is not looking at Jed, of course, right? So then you go the next step down, right? Jed's not going to blame him. He'll blame himself in interviews and stuff like that. But if they're looking for somebody to blame and scapegoat, it's always the manager. Yeah. The Cubs have gone through 1,000 hitting coaches in the last 5 years.
The hitting
right?
hasn't been the problem.
So maybe, but I'm just saying, like, that's sometimes the person that ends up getting fired, and we're going to change the approach, whatever, right? Yeah. And, so you end up in these situations. Like, I genuinely don't believe that they are going to look at a change in manager. I would be shocked if they do.
I would
that
be
being
too.
said, I did like a little bit of Jed Hoyer on the radio this morning, sort of saying like, well, I'm not a big fan of bunting, right?
Yes.
Like sort of as subtly as he can, saying, I don't think we should have been bunting multiple times last night. So, maybe there's at least a little bit of love lost there, but ultimately, like, this is just how these things work. And look, I see Omar's comment, like, blame it on Jed Hoyer. He built the team. I get it, man, right? Like, I'm saying that. Like, your bullpen is in this situation. You're in this spot because of how the team was built. I don't think they're going to miss the playoffs because of David Ross.
Michael's saying Ross is a better bench coach than he is a
might
manager.
be a contributor to it, but I don't think that's going to be the reason.
I think there's going to be a lot. He's going to have. He's made his mistakes for sure. Cost them some games. He's going to take. I mean, just from the outside, like he's going to take the brunt of the blame. But he definitely deserves some of the blame. This is a lot of blame to go around in here. Like
again, for me, it's more just like I feel like there needs to be some accountability.
Which is like what Corey said. Like that's kind of usually what happens and how these kind of things go. As the manager is like the person that gets like that.
But let's wait. 4 games left. Let's see what happens. Like I know what you're saying.
I'm just
we're going to have that.
Man.
We will have that conversation probably many, many times in the off season. Even if they do get to the postseason, we might have that conversation based on the way the chat wants to go, Cubs Twitter wants to go, and I think a lot of frustration.
Speaking of the chat, Sean C. has asked like 12 times, is Keegan Thompson alive? Just want to make sure you know Keegan Thompson is alive. He's not pitching in that situation. He's not pitching in a lot of these situations. He has not earned the opportunity to pitch this close to the end of a playoff push based on how he pitched throughout the season when he got his chances. But he's alive. He's alive, just so you know.
He's there.
Hey, we got 4 games left. You can watch them on Marquee, 140-plus live channels, Fubo TV, sports, shows, movies, and news. Stream live TV from any device. Watch the most Chicago sports for the lowest price. Start watching right away with a free trial, no contract, no cable, no hassle. Just sign up and start watching. 1,000 hours of cloud DVR included at no extra charge. College football, Big Ten, Bears if you want to. Even the Ryder Cup in the Red Zone. Watch all your favorite Chicago college football and NFL teams with Fubo. Go to www.FuboTV.com/CHGO to sign up for 15% off your first month of Fubo Pro. Hey, we're back with another week of football, by the way, and DraftKings Sportsbook is keeping us in on the NFL action with great offers on every single game day. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Throw $5 down on any of this week's epic matchups to walk away an instant winner. And DraftKings isn't stopping there. All customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every game day this September. Football's more fun when you're in on the action, so download the app now. Sign up with the code CHGO. New customers can bet just $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. With the code CHGO, the crown is yours. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777. Visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, licensee partner Golden Nugget, Lake Charles, Louisiana, 21 and older. Age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. See sportsbook.com, DraftKings.com/football terms for eligibility, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. That was harder than the finish of the game right there, let me tell you.
Credit to you. Big of you.
Credit to me. Big of me. Fighting
Credit
through it
to
all.
Luke. Credit.
Do we have more super chats? I think we had more of them actually rolling in at this point. It has been a great chat, and we still have well over 400 people.
Colin?
Colin is the next one. Yeah, Cubs in 4, please. Anything but just Bears football. No joke about that. Joe DiGiacomo for $1.99. What happened to Cody Bellinger's power? Hasn't been there, but let me tell you. Can you imagine what it would look like, this team, without Cody Bellinger next year? I don't want to think about it. We're talking about holes and roster spots that they have to improve. To me, losing Cody Bellinger in free agency has to be off the table at this point. They have to go to him and say, all right, I know your agent's going to want the moon. We're going to overpay. Whatever offer you get, we're $1 more. Whatever it takes to bring you back, we're that team. They can't afford to lose Cody Bellinger right now. So his power hasn't been there. He's still a guy I want in that lineup every single night. And
so valuable.
So valuable. The Duke 811 always throwing the money around. $20, the Duke 811. Boy, am I glad we weren't sellers at the deadline and now have the opportunity to miss the playoffs anyway. This is exactly what I wanted. Totally unrelated. Do you guys happen to have the discount code for Sunnyside handy?
CHGO 25.
CHGO 25.
CHGO 25. Dana for $20. CHGO Cubs crew always shows up. Love listening to you guys. This is not over yet. Pirates are still a decent team and can go knock off the Marlins. # Brewers sweep. Let's go. I'm in on that.
Positivity.
We need a little of the positive. We need a Captain Positive right now. Grapefruit says more urgent adding to the pen or lineup next year. That's what I'm saying. Yes, adding the lineup.
Yeah.
In addition to bringing back Cody Bellinger.
It's the lineup. And I don't think it's close, really, right?
On top of the fact that they're going to have, like, they really will have some of their best prospects debuting or ones who have already debuted. Like, you know, I know everyone's down on PCA right now for, honestly, the reason is dumb, outside of the fact if you just don't want to see him in the field like Luke does right now because of how intense the games are.
Just right now. I'm not down on him for next year at all.
You're not down, but I've seen people in the chat who are like, PCA is a bust, and I just think that's a dumb take considering he doesn't even have 20 at-bats in his major league career. But like he's going to get a real opportunity to be a mainstay on this team next year. Definitely. Cade Horton's probably going to have an opportunity to get a call-up at some point next year.
Cade Horton's a dog, too.
Right? And Jordan Wicks has already cemented himself to be in the rotation next year. They're as bad as things are right now and as sad as things are, like the real good prospects are coming up next year. So if they have those guys on top of actually improving the team in the offseason, like, yeah, no matter what happens these next couple games, like there's a lot of real optimism for next year. It's just going to be real tough if they don't miss the playoffs in terms of just like the overall vibe. Like that's my thing. Like I don't want to go in the offseason with just a bitter feeling after all the good that came from this year.
I think you'd have to hope that it turns into something of like a galvanizing moment where it's like, all right, we had modest expectations and we didn't necessarily deliver as much as we wanted. No more messing around, right? Yeah. Open the checkbook, bring the prospects up, and you had better leave Mesa with World Series expectations, right? And I think that should be the case either way.
Yeah.
But I think if you do end up missing the playoffs this year, that has got to be a kind of like never again, right? Because you know that's going to be Dansby's attitude. Like some of those guys, like close enough is not good enough for some of these guys, and it's not good enough for the Cubs as an organization.
But this is part of not selling. While in hindsight, maybe if they don't make it, some are going to say, they should have sold. Look, they could have got this group of prospects. I still believe, make it or not, it's the right decision because you're seeing the growing pains of young players going through this. PCA is getting that taste of what it's like to be at the big leagues in pressure games and what's going on. It's not like AAA. So you got another big off season. You're the top prospect. You've got big work to do in the off season. Nico Horner's getting his first taste of real important games. He's a great player, one of my favorite players on the Cubs. The toss plays you got to make. Seiya's getting his first taste of what a real game in playoff contention is like. Got to make the catch. Guys are getting that experience. Wicks is getting tremendous experience. Assad is getting that experience. Palencia is maybe not coming through the way you want him to, but he's getting that experience. Guys have to take that step. And so even if they don't make it this year, listen, I hope it happens. 11-13 isn't going to do it. We all said that. There's flaws in the roster. But you have to find something good to take out of this if it does fall flat at the end. Yeah. And that is these young guys going through the process for the first time and then taking that into the postseason and building on it, knowing that, hey, we're not all that just yet. There's lots of hard work to do, and that's where you make your next big step from, we might be a playoff team. Maybe we are a playoff team, to we're a real playoff team. That and spending some money in the offseason.
Yeah.
Period.
Absolutely. So, I mean, no one wants to hear any of this shit right now, but that's the only thing that's giving me any optimism about whatever happens over the next 4 games. Like, the future is still bright, and whatever. They gotta. We said at the beginning of the week they needed to win 4 games. I said 4 games they would definitely get in. I said 3 games they might get in. 3 games is possible. I don't know if they're going to win 4 in a row, but I think they can win 3 and then just hope and pray that the Marlins lose to the Pirates some.
Yep.
I mean, that's just where it's at, and it sucks. And I think all offseason I'll just point to losing that series against the Rockies and losing 6 or 7 to the Diamondbacks and losing 2 or 3 to the Pirates in September. Like, that to me, that's it. Those are the games. You win those series, especially against Colorado and Pittsburgh. We're sitting here firmly in the playoffs.
You're game up, or at least right now, something like that.
By the way, the Braves are giving you another opportunity tomorrow. You got Stroman on the mound, and Kelly Kroll says, our friend says, Snit says, A.J. Smith Shawver will be called up to make the start tomorrow. Okay, it's a kid. All right?
2.76 ERA in 15 starts in the minors this year, 4.57 ERA in 5 games, 4 starts at the MLB level.
Put up 10 runs tomorrow. Put up double digits. Don't let the bullpen be a factor. Go out. Stroman has to do the Stro show. He's got to give you something, right? He's got to give you more than, 4 innings, in my opinion. Give me 5, and then give me 10 runs. You got to get one. You got to get one to give this a chance going into the weekend. Thanks to everybody that's been in the chat. Make sure you guys are hitting the like button.
Even all of you that are super mean, like, damn.
Yeah, Sean Castelli is being mean to me on my birthday. This is crazy.
Oh, it's Ryan's birthday. How?
Sean's being mean to me again.
Ryan, you should have been saying at the end, not on my birthday, bro. Not on my birthday.
That was
Cody.
That's Cody's
we should have had 2 of those this year.
Our loss was not nearly as bad as what it was on my birthday.
But this one meant more. This one was tougher to swallow for what it meant, right?
Sure. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, the Duke. Look at you, Duke. Super chatting another $10. Horrible Bears flashback. Next year will be better. Rocking back and forth, clutching my teddy bear, sucking my thumb. Overlay of helicopters and napalm in Vietnam. All right.
Oh, jeez.
All right. We're getting deep on this one, Duke.
He's been dark.
Dark?
Yeah, he's been
Yeah.
Duke.
He's been on Duke Island, just dark.
You know the Duke needs? A pair of Shady Rays.
Shady Rays. Cover up the embarrassment or bring out the swag. One of the two.
Take on the sun with gear built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered for the warm weather ahead with premium polarized shades at an affordable price. Shady Rays is an independent sunglass company that offers a world-class product that's just as good as any expensive pair we've worn. Durable frames and extremely clear optics for outdoor adventures. That's not all. Shady Rays offers the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair of sunglasses is backed by lost and broken replacements. If you lose or break your pair, even on day 1, they told us they will send you a brand new pair. No questions asked. Wear your Shady Rays with confidence because they have your back long after you purchase. Together with their customers, Shady Rays is providing much-needed support to nonprofit partners across the U.S. through Shady Rays Impact. From building play sets for pediatric cancer patients to providing young adults with MS the outdoor adventure of a lifetime, Shady Rays is making an impact in your community and others like it now and for years to come. If you don't love your Shady Rays, exchange for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back.
Very nice. By the way, Goose Island, the official beer of CHGO. The Goose Island is the presenting partner of the CHGO Sports Podcast that comes up on Thursdays. And it's been Chicago's beer since 1988. They've got Oktoberfest right now, the Beer Hug family. Tomorrow, Cody will be chugging an ice-cold 3-1-2 after a Cubs win as they salvage 1 win against the Atlanta Braves. Maybe it's a full pocket Pilsner if we can get some in the fridge before then. All I know is the Goose Island will be flowing on Sunday at our tailgate. Wabash, Cermak. Get there. AllCHGO.com is where you buy your tickets. It includes all the Goose Island you can drink in that time, all the firewater barbecue you can eat in that time, and all the vibes you can handle because it's the Bears, it's the Broncos, and, quote, somebody got to win.
The Cubs are going to make the
And the Cubs will make
wow.
the playoffs that day, Greg
Braggs.
Bragg says.
Braggs, you put your job on the line for that? Did you bet your house on that?
Bragg says he wagered that on DraftKings. He is staying silent, mostly because he doesn't have a microphone. Oh, honk means yes.
Bet his house on it.
Tomorrow also
wouldn't
should
do
be
I
a
would
lot
not.
of fun, just narrative-wise, right? Because I'm sure everybody will be very normal about the decision to go back to Stroman in the rotation if it doesn't go well, and Stroman with the big contract and all that, right? It'll be very normal if it doesn't
Sure it
go
will.
well.
Make sure you grab Ultra Fresh Brewer exclusive beers at Goose Island's original brew house on Clybourne Avenue in Lincoln Park, or from their tap room on Fulton Street in Westtown. Goose Island Beer Company, Chicago's beer. Oh, we made it. We made it.
We got
Somehow
one
made it
more super
without-
chat.
One more
Drinking
super
bleach.
chat.
Or two, maybe?
No. Wait, yep.
Ah.
Go
There
Have
we
it go
go,
with
there you go.
Chalupa.
Made him feel
Chalupa
bad.
sounds
No, I've
good.
gotten a lot of birthday wishes in the chat in the last couple minutes, so thank you. Appreciate that.
Happy
Sorry,
birthday,
Ryan.
Ryan.
Golden
Happy
birthday.
B-Day. Go buy a chalupa with Cody. I do like chalupas.
$2 is not
Yeah, I don't
enough.
think
I've seen
so.
your Taco Bell orders. That's not even getting close to the amount of money that we need.
Especially after the trip home at Sunnyside and Chalupa. Soak it in, go to sleep. Yeah. Braves win 6-5. The Cubs had to lead 3 different times. Second straight night, just a kick in the gonads. But it's not over. Yes, the Marlins did win. Reds lost. And tomorrow they go against a rookie pitcher. 4 games to go. And the push to 83 still continues. 83. Thanks for checking out the CHGO Cubs podcast. Listen, you're our therapy session. We hope we are yours as well. Thanks for watching. And we'll be back here for a full hour or more after the game tomorrow. Man, cross your fingers. And until then, fly the W.